The world is full of injustice. Good people die along with the bad. This cosmic equation will never change unless evil itself is wiped from existence. Thankfully, there are powerful forces pushing back against the wicked and iniquitous. Individuals who have the strength to pull together against insurmountable odds, to face adversity with unblinking courage, and not to hesitate to sacrifice themselves for another.
So how do you follow up one of the most perfect seasons of television ever made? Which is what we saw when we watched The Umbrella Academy Season 1. Well, you do it with scenes like that, with Sir Reginald Hargreaves just dominating the show and being a man who, when he is on screen, you just can't take your eyes off of. Before we start getting into the details of Umbrella Academy Season 2, though, I'd like to take a moment to ask that if you like this video and you enjoy the content, that you please let me know in the comments. Share it with your friends, and please do consider subscribing to the channel. As a new creator on YouTube, that's one of the biggest ways that I'll be able to help expand my reach and continue to bring you content that you love and enjoy. And now let's get talking about Umbrella Academy Season 2. What does Umbrella Academy Season 2 get so right that made me enjoy it so much? I want to start with talking about how the production company sets the mood for the series. And one of the key ways that they do that is through the music. From start to finish, every single episode of this series really nails the music. Whether it's Sinatra in the initial battle scene when we see World War III in Doomsday, or whether you're looking at things further down the line where they're dancing in the hair salon, every single time they're bringing soundtrack into this series, it's so well chosen. It fits the mood of what they're trying to convey and enhance on the screen so perfectly that I can't think of a single choice that I thought was offbeat, was inappropriate, or didn't work at all. At the end of the day, music helps set the tone for a series, and it's really one of the best areas where this show just absolutely excels. Not a bad thing to say about the music choices. It is top-notch, and I cannot wait to see how they play that into further seasons down the line. Hopefully we get more than just a Season 3. Maybe we can get a Season 4 and a Season 5 too. And if they continue with the music choices that they've been doing, they're going to continue to set the mood so well. If anything, this is a step ahead from what we got in Umbrella Academy Season 1, and that's really saying something, because the music is so good in this show. What else do they do really well? Well, by and large, the relationships between the characters are something that I continue to enjoy, that we saw that worked really great in Season 1. Overall, very solid. My two favorites have got to be Diego and Lila. They are together through most of the season in one way, shape, or form, with various different stages in their relationship developing. And the two of those actors have just got really good chemistry together. Their reactions to each other and how you see that develop over the course of the season really made me happy. I mean, Diego's storyline overall is one of the really high points of this season, but it doesn't work without Lila, and she's just a great addition to the cast, and I love having her in it, and the two of them together just truly shine. The next one that is probably one of the best interactions among characters and seeing the relationship is Aidan Gallagher as the Five we know and love, coupled with Old Man Five, his past self from just 2 weeks prior to the events that we are watching. The two of them really, you do believe 100% that they are the same character. The older actor who's reprising his role as the older Five clearly did his homework studying how Aidan Gallagher played the character, because there's never a moment when you do not know that the two of these actors are the same character in the show. Whether it's the two of them thinking the same thing at the same time, whether it's the two of them using the same mannerisms, expressions, sort of approach to how they do things overall, it's just done so well. Everything about it was really, really good. Now, Vanya had a very interesting relationship with a young boy named Harlan that I thought felt very authentic, very genuine. She was almost a surrogate mother to the boy, and I think that she saw many parallels to her own childhood in the young boy Harlan that it really worked for me. I mean, that was good. I liked the play of those two together, and the boy who played this autistic child, also very, very good. Believed every moment of it. It didn't appear to be a child mimicking something. You really felt like the young man was truly pretty far onto the autism spectrum, and it worked really, really well with Vanya. Again, seeing her own isolation in that boy. Great relationship there, worked really well for me. Klaus and Ben had a very significant expansion on how the two of them interacted, and you saw a lot more of their relationship than perhaps you thought was there. But it makes sense because the two of them have been together for a very, very long time, with Klaus being the only person that Ben can even really develop a relationship with. So seeing the two of them and how they play against each other, how they fight, when their own wills are kind of working against each other. Again, really good character development for the two of them. And it was nice to see Ben, being a real person, despite the fact that he can't interact with the majority of the characters in the show. So it played really well for me. It was a lot of fun. It was enjoyable to see the way that these two things work. Character arcs in season 2 were honestly pretty decent for about half the cast, I would say. And there's really 4 of them that I thought were done particularly excellently. I want to start with Diego. Diego really, really stepped forward in season 2. His acting was superb. I loved his appearance. And everything about what he did from start to finish of the season was just super good on this show. I loved Diego. He has definitely become my second favorite character in the show, and he really, really excelled this time. Overall, really good. I loved how we got to see a significant expansion and understanding of just what his powers really are, and his personal relationships, his motivations, his goals, how he sees himself. Just, again, start to finish, really, really good stuff. Number 5, I cannot say enough good about Aidan Gallagher. This kid is one of the best actors that I have seen in easily the last decade, if not the past 2. This young man is going to be a Hollywood A-lister. Everything about what he does is amazing. When he's on the screen, you can't take your eyes off him. He is in charge. He doesn't take shit off of anybody. And start to finish, this kid is just great. I cannot heap enough praise on this young man. His performance is great. His character arc is amazing. His motivation, everything, top to bottom, is unbelievably good. Reginald Hargreaves took a bit of a more active role in the story this time, and he was great. Sir Reggie is a compelling character. He's acted exceptionally well, and he really, really has a solid understanding of what's behind him, what the motivation is. And as you learn more about what drives Hargreaves, it explains a lot of how he behaves. Actor does an excellent job portraying him. Loved the character. He is, immediately somebody you draw your eye to every time that he's on the screen. And one of the best, absolute best scenes of the entire season was him and number 5 talking together after the Last Supper. Just wonderful, wonderful place for those two to be. And it was really amazing seeing that young man, Aidan Gallagher, again, believable as a 58-year-old man interacting with his not yet father, depending on how you look at the timeline. And the two of them work together wonderfully, and I can't wait to see more of it in season 3. The other major character arc that's just so well done is the Handler. The Handler is an excellent villain. She is, her costume choices and the way that they mix her up and bring her out throughout the season, again, really, really good. She is the villain that you love to hate because it's just perfect. Anytime you've got a show where you love the villain, you know that you're doing something pretty good. Now, unfortunately, not everything in season 2 was as dynamite and top-notch as we saw in season 1. Very, very good season, but didn't quite meet the bar that we saw last year. Few plot points for me that fell a little flat, didn't necessarily work great, or perhaps weren't as well executed as they ought to be. I'm going to start off with Klaus's relapse. It was used for valid reasons in the story. I understand where it came from, but it just didn't ring true for me. Now, could that be because I'm not an addict and it's harder than I think to really put myself in those shoes? Yes, absolutely. He definitely went through something that would have been pretty emotionally challenging with running into the young Dave before he shipped off to the Marines, and brought him back into his substance abuse. That I understand where all that came from, but the relapse just didn't work for me, and I didn't like that lack of development from Klaus. I felt in a lot of ways that it was pretty static as compared to season 1. And while the Destiny's Children cult was a fun subplot to what was going on throughout the show, I didn't really like Klaus's lack of development. Despite the fun that we had with Destiny's Children, whom they played very, very well together. They kind of ripped a scene directly out of Fight Club, where when the cult leader is trying to break things up, they take it completely the wrong way and go deeper into the depth of the psychosis and the, that sort of group think mentality that they've been drawn into. Those items were good, but Klaus himself was disappointing for me, which was a bummer for me particularly, because I really liked Klaus in season 1. He was really my favorite character last go around, and I was just overall disappointed with what he didn't do as much as anything else in season 2. Another item that was a little rough for me was Luther's storyline. It was, really meh overall. We got some really good visuals with him, and, for instance, there was a scene where he's in the fighting ring and he's feeling kind of tortured about seeing that Allison just got married, and he lets the guy just beat the living crap out of him. You get a really, really significant callback to one of my favorite movies, Snatch, where Luther's just getting laid out and he's flying across the room after a big hit. And visually they did some good things with him, but again, Luther was kind of disappointing to me. If he's supposed to be number 1, then he needs to really step up and be number 1. An area where I thought there was a really big missed opportunity was the relationship between Vanya and Sissy. The setup to it with Sissy, being in a time where being out, whether she's bisexual or a lesbian, is not accepted, that part of what we saw felt pretty good to me. I thought that Sissy played it very well. I thought the actress was pretty believable. And I had no reason to disbelieve or doubt that she'd really started to fall in love with Vanya. The trouble with it, though, is while they did it in a believable way, and it definitely helped move the story forward, the missed opportunity was in the husband, Carl, being a jerk. Had he been a good man, a caring husband, a good father, and somebody whom you didn't have some revulsion to, I think that you really could have significantly improved the storyline between Vanya and Sissy. As it was, with him not being someone that you felt any particular emotional attachment to, you didn't care as much about the fact that Sissy had fallen in love with a woman and needed to express that and was planning to leave him, because it was sort of set up that she always wanted to. If you, on the other hand, change that and make Carl a good man, you add an extra layer of conflict and challenge, and to really spice that up, and it could have been much more interesting. And, I was disappointed there because it really was a missed opportunity, and it made it feel more like it was shoehorned in than necessarily a truly natural part of the story. Again, just disappointed because they could have done so much more with that. The other piece that I was disappointed by was the use of the civil rights storyline early in the season. So to start, I thought it was well represented. I certainly believed that Allison would become a part of a group like that. That didn't feel out of character to me. Where this missed was that it really wasn't part of the overall story arc of the season. It didn't serve to push the plot forward, and it really felt like filler to me, which, if you're gonna deal with the 60s civil rights, then I don't think it should be ancillary to your overall main plot. I mean, call me crazy, but that's important stuff. It was represented well. I thought that the way that it was treated was very true to life, from what I understand. Now, I grant you I didn't live through it, but we've certainly seen and learned a lot about that over the years. The sit-ins and the violence of the police, it was all very, very true to form in what really happened in our country in the 60s. And to put that in, but not have it be a part of the main plot, it makes it feel more contrived and pushed in there for, honestly, political purposes. So it's a shame that something so important was treated almost as filler in what was otherwise a pretty good show. So few items of disappointment there. There's some others, but those are the four that really kind of stuck out to me as areas where either they did something wrong or they missed an opportunity to do something great. No review of Season 2 is going to be complete without touching on that amazing final episode that we got. Key beats from it that really, really stand out to me are the escalation and the control and the evolution of some of our main characters' powers. The first one that we get to see that's just out of this world is Diego. We've seen that Diego's got the ability to put his knives wherever he wants to. We've seen, if you watch closely, that he seems to have some level of control over various projectiles around in the world. There's a really good intro to it that you can catch in the initial battle for World War III in Dallas in the first episode of the season. But you really, really get to see it grow and become something awe-inspiring when Diego covers for 5 to get away from the army of commission agents, and he is able to stop the bullets in flight in order to protect his brother and himself, and then send them careening off in another direction. That's something that we didn't see about Diego's power in Season 1 that was just really, really visually excellent and helps you understand the character more. The next step up in the control and evolution of powers that I enjoyed quite a bit was honestly Vanya. So we know how powerful she is. We know that she's able to really project those force waves in a catastrophic way, potentially. Seeing her control it in such a way that she was able to wipe out the Commission army without touching any of her family members and the people that she was attempting to protect is a really big step forward for her in her control and her evolution as a character as in relation to her powers. Great scene. Really, really enjoyed it. The reveal of Lila as what I'll call a mimic was really, really well executed. Seeing her immediately use the powers of the various different members of the Umbrella Academy back against them was a really cool scene. It was effective, it was fun, it had stakes. You didn't really know how this was going to end and finalize in terms of trying to deal with her as an antagonist. The abilities that she exhibited had actually been telegraphed earlier in the show, but until you watch that final episode, you don't really catch it. Now that I'm on my second, third watch through of the season as a whole, I've spotted a bunch of times when Lila was using somebody else's power, but they hit it so well that you missed it during your first watch through until you watch this final episode. Again, well done with her. Really enjoyed the character, and it was very strong and well done. The final big step forward for somebody's powers that we get to watch in this last episode is, of course, number 5. He reflects back to a conversation that he and Reginald had after the Light Supper, where Reggie tells him that instead of going for decades, perhaps he needs to just work on a few seconds. And instead of jumping through time, 5 rewinds the scene where the handlers killed every member of the Academy. He brings everybody back because he's rolled back time just far enough that they haven't been shot yet, and then blinks himself into position to stop the handler. This is an insanely cool exhibition of what 5's true potential really is, and is just excellent visually and very, very satisfying to see how that grows. Brings us to, of course, the absolute final scene that we watch in this show. And that is, they've resolved Doomsday, they've taken care of the threat from the Commission, and they go ahead and they go back to 2019, and they arrive on April 2nd, which is the day after the apocalypse. Everything is still in place, the Academy still stands. They walk into the main sitting room, and Reginald Hargreaves is alive. And then he tells them that this isn't their home. And of course, he had been expecting them to show up eventually. On the balcony, we see 5 people in silhouette, plus a glowing cube. And then down on the ground level with the Umbrella Academy, there is a very alive and very different Ben. We're told that this is now the Sparrow Academy. I'll tell you what, I can't wait to see how this works out in Season 3. So that's a wrap on my review of the Umbrella Academy Season 2. Overall, good season of television. I still like the show very much. It didn't hit as strongly as Season 1 did, but it's still a solid 7.5 out of 10. Lots of fun, good show, a little bit slow in the middle, a few points here and there that could have been, take it or leave it, but really, really picks up and accelerates and gets back to the old excellence in the final act of the show. As you leave, first, thank you for listening this long. If you enjoyed the video, which I hope you did if you're still watching, please do remember to give it a like. I'd love to see your comments about the Umbrella Academy Season 2 below. Share this video with your friends, and please do subscribe to the channel as I continue to produce more content about more shows and about news in the entertainment industry. As a new creator on YouTube, your support is the most critical thing to help me reach more people and entertain more of y'all out there. Thank you, and I hope you have a great one.